Hello, my name is Nephi Wolf, and this is the next in a series of videos about extraction. In this one, we're going to show you how to do some basic data modeling. For each one of these items here in the extraction program, behind the scenes, all these different fields, there's a database model that tells where you can find this data. And so that's what we're going to look at today. So in the Data Model Editor program, and you can open that just by clicking on your Start menu and going to the Extraction and the Data Model Editor. And when you first open it up, you'll always need to remember that you need to go to File and Open, and then you'll go to the extraction path there, Program Files x86, Extraction Software, Extraction, Data, Configuration. And then you'll open up the datamodel.dat file. And once you do it once, it'll always take you to the same place. So you'll open up the datamodel.dat, and then this is the model that the program is using. So here we're going to look at Service Manager and give you a few examples. So as you expand this, we have different views, and so each one of these views, like for example the incidents view, this has a whole bunch of different tables that connect together to show you information about incidents. So as we expand that, we have our incident table, and then we have journals, which is things like notes and emails. They're connected to the incident table. We have the SLA table, and so we're going to show you how you can add some new fields and how those work. So let's say on the incident object, you create a new field and you want to a new field for resolved without escalation. So you can come in here to the table and you can double click on the incident table, and if the field is on the incident object, if it's right on the incident object, then you can just add it here on the incident table. So we can come in here and then we can add a column. We can say resolved without escalation. And we'll go through these in just a second. Actually, why don't we do that right now? So, so the ID, this is just an internal name. So it doesn't really matter what you put in here. This is just behind the scenes what it uses to connect these fields. The text, this is what shows up in the extraction website. So when you're over here and you're adding a new column, this is the text. So when you're adding your new field, you want to make sure that you give it, a nice name, capitalize it or whatever you want, so that it looks good in the website. And then the expression. So with this, you'll use the alias, the table alias, which is in this case is just incident. And then you'll do a period, and then you'll do the field name. So in the SQL database, what is that name called? And so we'll assume it's called without escalation. And then you choose your data type. So string is just any set of characters, a paragraph of text or whatever, a number. And the reason why you would choose something to be a string or a number, you can do math on numbers. So if you have a field and you say it's a string, when you use like a plus sign, you would be adding two words together. But when you have a number, you use a plus sign, you would be adding those up just like mathematical math. So string, number, date, a Boolean, so a true false. So in this case, resolved without escalation, that would be a Boolean. A binary, we use that for unique IDs, and then other. So we'll go ahead and choose Boolean here. And then this active checkbox, this just lets you choose whether or not you want this field to be shown. So you can create this, but you can just leave it off the list. You can hide it for now until maybe you're not sure what the table or the column is, so you can create everything and go back and correct it later. So you can show and hide a field by making it active. And then you have these different properties here. So the group property, if you check this checkbox here, if you have a group property, then that lets you do things like this. So you can say, show me all the incidents that were resolved without escalation, and you can group them together in a pie chart or a graph or something. So that's what the group does. If you check the box for list, then that lets you add the field here. So you can come in to here, and then you could edit the columns, and you can add your new column. So if you don't check the checkbox for list, the field will not show up here. You will not be able to add it into like the list like this. And then there's the summary. And the summary, that field shows up here. So when you're counting, when you have, like for example, like this is a list of the incidents that have been created over the last month, and you're counting these up. So you can then summarize that information. So if you were doing, for example, like time to resolve, so you could say you want the average time to resolve, or the average number of escalations, or average number of notes. But this summary field here, that's what you get from this one here. Filters. So if you check this box for filters, then you can use that field here. So when you add a condition, then you would see it here. You would see it on this list. So you can filter it down. Admin filter. This one isn't nearly as common. We won't go into detail here, but basically you can set up filters behind the scenes that the other users can't see. So it's possible to filter out things so that like HR incidents, for example, pay raises, things like that, they could be filtered out at a lower level, so users don't know that they're not seeing them, and you could filter out what they're seeing. So they set up their own filters here, but behind the scenes it filters it even more based on the admin filter. But so that's what that does there. The date filter. This just says that this field is like a date field, and so date filters, you have like filters here where you can do a date condition, and with dates you can do special things, like you can say, last year, or you could say in the last 2 weeks. So you can do special things with dates instead of just doing like a string match, like you would do with a regular condition. So you have the date filters, you have the default date, which we don't use very often, and then you have UTC date. UTC date just means that they're adjusting the date value for your time zone. So for example, right here it's 5:12 p.m., so I'm in Mountain Time, so the UTC date would add 7 hours to that. So if I were to save something right now, it would say that it was saved at 12:12 on the next day. And then depending on your time zone, it can adjust for that. So if you don't know if it's UTC date or not, you can just check the box and then look at the values. And if you see incidents being created at 5 p.m. through midnight, then you know that you normally don't work 5 p.m. through midnight. So then you can just come back and uncheck the checkbox. So that just lets you know, are they adjusting it for the time zone in the database? So that's what those different fields do there. So then you can go in and you can add those fields here, and you can add more values to the different objects. So if you're looking at computers, you could add a new field that you have for your computers, or incidents or requests. You can add new fields as you add them through the program. So there's also another option. So this incident table, this is a table in the database, and it's related to all of these other tables. So not everything about an incident is in the incident table. Emails and notes go in a different table. The SLA goes into another table. If you're linking it to a problem, then that has a problem table. So there's all of these different tables. And so now we'll go through an example of how you can connect it to a new table. So let's see here. I have an incident escalation table. So we'll scroll down. Oh, too far. There we go. Incident escalations. So this table has a record ID, a unique ID for this. It has an incident record ID, so we can connect it back to the incident. And then it has the escalation details, who the escalation was created by, and the creation date. And so this table is called incident escalations. So if we go back to extraction, we can come up here and we can say add a table. And then the ID again, this is just an internal name. It doesn't really matter. Incident escalations. The text, this is what shows up here. And for the tables, it doesn't really matter because they're just behind the scenes. So we can call it incident escalations. And here is where we put in the table name. So in this case, it's the same thing, incident escalations. And then the schema, that is, let's see, oops, too far. Here it shows as DBO, and that's going to be the case in 99% of the scenarios. So you can put in DBO here. And then here's the alias that we're going to use later on all of the fields that we add. When you add a table, you can check this checkbox for read uncommitted. That just helps to avoid locking the database. It just reads the data without locking the table and making sure nothing changes. It won't affect anything by reading uncommitted, so that's a good idea to add that. So we have our table here, and so now we're going to add those fields. And so we'll start with, let's see. So we'll start with the incident record ID, incident rec ID. So we'll just give it the ID, incident rec ID, and the text here. This is what it's going to show up in extraction. In this case, because this is just a unique identifier linking the tables, we won't actually show it in the extraction website. You don't need to see the incident record ID here. So the text, we just won't worry about that. The expression, so we need to put in incident escalations, the alias there. Escalations, and then a period, and then the column name, incident rec ID. And the data type, so because this is the unique identifier, we put it in as a binary. And we do not really want to show this in extraction, so we just won't. We'll make sure it's active, but then we won't check any of these boxes. So we have that there. So go in, we'll add another, and we'll put in the escalation created by. And so this one will show up in the extraction website, or we do want it to. So we'll make this look nicer. You could say user. And then the expression again, it's the alias, escalations, and then dots, created by. And then this is a string. And do you want to group an incident by their escalations created by? Sure, yeah, you can do that. Do you want to show it in a list? Like, would you want to show it here? In this area, do you want to have the ability to add it? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. The summary field, do you want to be able to count the incidents? You know, how many were escalated by that person? Do you want to be able to filter it? So we can check these checkboxes. It's not a date, so we don't check anything down there. So we're done with that field. I'll add one more incident description. It's the escalation details. Okay. So the ID doesn't have to match. So we can then say escalation details, and the expression, it's that alias, incident escalations dot. Oh, see, I already forgot the name. Escalation details. Escalation details. And this is a string, just like a paragraph of text. Can you group this together? Would you group incidents by their escalation details? And that's a paragraph of text. You probably won't have the same paragraph of text for different escalations. So I'm not going to check that. It probably wouldn't be good to group them. But you do want to list that. Do you want to summarize it? I mean, you can't really count the escalation details, so we won't check that. you want to filter it? Do you want to show only escalations with certain words? Sure. So we'll check those checkboxes. So now we have our table here. It has a few fields, has the created by user, has the details, and then it has this incident record ID. So this is a foreign key pointing back to the incident table. That's how we know that this escalation is linked to this incident. So we'll go ahead and say OK, and we'll save the new table here. So we have this table. We've created this table. Now we come back to the incident table, the parent table of everything. Everything is connected to it. And then we can go to the joins, and we can say we can right click there and add. And then as you create new tables, they always go to the bottom. So as you get that list, you just scroll to the bottom. There's our newest one, incident escalations. And left outer join, that's what you want to do in 99% of the cases. That means keep everything from the incident table and add the incident escalations if there are any. But if there aren't, still keep all of the incidents. The inner join means only keep incidents that have incident escalations. So every incident that does not have an escalation would get removed. So there are cases where you want that, but most of the time when you're joining tables, you want to do a left outer join. So we'll do that, and then you can right click, and you can add a field down here, and the incident primary key on the incident table will connect it to the incident rec ID on the escalation table, and then we're done. So we'll say OK, we'll save that join, we'll save that. And so the last step is you'll need to save this. So we'll go ahead and save that information. And then now that that's saved, on the extraction website, before you'll see any of those changes, you'll need to click on the administration, reload, and data model. So that'll reload that file that we just changed. So now that we've done that, so now we can come over here and we have, so you can see we have this list here. We can come in to the columns, and then we can right click on this, and we can edit the columns. And so if we scroll down, so now we have the escalation created user, so we can add that on there, and the escalation details. So we have those two. And if you wanted to, you could just drag them down further. You can move those around. So we have those two fields. And let's see. I thought I had one, but apparently, oh, this is during the last month. So it's filtering them down. So we'll remove that. There we go. So there, it's linked to a new table, and we've modeled that data. So that's that's the basics of it. Just remember that on the object, you can. So for example, we're looking at the incident table. This is the incident table. We can add new fields here, and we can just right-click. And we can add, and then just remember to check these checkboxes. So if you're ever trying to, for example, if you ever want to show, you have a new field for, not escalated. You have a checkbox on your window that says not escalated, and you want to see all the incidents in a pie chart that were not escalated, or you want to filter. And if you can't find it, if you're looking in here, and you're looking at these filters, and you can't find that field, then you may have modeled the field incorrectly. You forgot to check a checkbox here. So just remember that. And also the text, remember the text that's what shows up in extraction in the website. So make sure that the text looks pretty. And the other thing that gets people a lot of the times, the expression, you need to put in the alias, dot, and then the column name, the SQL column name. So if the table is called, so if we were to come back here, I mean, maybe the table itself is called incident records or something. The alias is incident. So as you add a new field, just remember, it doesn't matter what the SQL table is called. You need to put in the alias and then the column name, and check those checkboxes. All right, so we'll move on to the next video that we'll do. We'll record some more advanced statements, some other things that you can do, some new fields, some new types of fields that you can put in there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at NCSI, and we can help you with those.